Thank you for joining us today for our first ever Sporty's Wright Brothers Collection webinar. Today we are going to highlight over 10 years of model development, beginning with our Cessna 172, and then go into our first ever J3 Cub Die-Cast Model. And then at the end, we got a little surprise for you guys. You guys are going to be the first to find out our special model release that you'll be able to order today right after the webinar. Also on this webinar, we're just going to talk about kind of the process it takes of developing these models, the obstacles we encountered, and just some of the fun that we've had. All right, so first we are Sporty's Wright Brothers Collection. Everyone knows who Sporty's pilot shop is, but Sporty's Wright Brothers Collection was actually established in 1994. And my name is Branden Thompson, and I have been at Sporty's for over 20 years. So Wright Brothers Collection specializes in aircraft models, propellers, apparel, home decor, books, sign prints, RC aircraft, and much more. A lot of stuff is exclusively designed here at Sporty's, and we also highlight space. We don't want to leave those guys out, and also the helicopter people of the world. Another thing that we do here at Sporty's Wright Brothers is the model yard. It's modelyard.com. It's a neat little program we have for our models where we like to give you an in-depth video of the model. Also tell you about some interesting facts about that aircraft. Because let's be honest, all these planes have a story. They're real. They're not made up. And we just want to share their stories with you guys. And also provide just a little bit more of a background on the models that you'll be collecting. And all the models that we highlight here today are a part of the model yard. All right, so we got the Wright Brothers collection down. So let's get into how we did our first model. So it's over a decade ago, Sporty's Wright Brothers collection. I got a phone call here one day from a gentleman at a very popular, well-known model agency called Gemini Jets. Gemini Jets specializes in airliners, all over the world, and their detail is known. These guys are incredible when it comes to detail. So I get a call from a rep there, and he said, hey, we would like to get into the general aviation world, and I think that Sporty's would be a good fit to create our first model. And I said, well, I don't really know anything about this, but let's go. So first thing we talked about was, of course, it had to be the Cessna 172. Some of you might not know this, but Sporty's is a flight school. We're the University of Cincinnati's flight school, and we have a lot of Cessna 172s right here on our flight line. So I know we had quite a bit to choose from. Took me going outside about a year before the release, taking 15, 20 different images, photographs of this airplane, all different types of angles. And because the guys, like I said, people over at Gemini Jets, they're very detailed. They want to make sure they get every aspect of the plane taken care of. And then what I do is I'd send that over to them, and they'd ask for Pantone colors, and which we found out are Pantone color books. I was using some of the wrong ones. So we went through that, and we finally came to our very first Cessna 172 die-cast model. And it worked out very well, and it worked out very well for, like I said, over 10 years. So right before COVID hit, in 2019, I'm talking with Gemini Jets. We're like, okay, we've done the Cessna. What's next? Well, we talked about doing a Piper Cub. This was actually kind of I had to convince them. They're so detailed there that they were like, hey, look, the Cubs aren't die-cast. They're not metal. They're cloth airplanes. This doesn't make sense. Well, me, not so detailed. I was like, you know what? Our audience, they're not going to care. They just want this really cool model to put on their desk and highlight, because the Cub is like one of the coolest planes that everyone knows about. And after convincing him, I got the opportunity to get the Cub. But I'll give you a little interesting fact. There was a plane that was supposed to happen before the Cub. We'll find out what that is. All right, so here's our Cessna 172. This is the one for this year. This is actually in the hangar. We had some winds here when I took this picture, so they had it safe inside. And this was one of the ones we picked. One thing I am going to highlight is, notice this plane does not have wheel pants on it, whereas the model does. This was actually due to the mold that we did, had wheel pants. We decided that for a display model, it's actually a lot more attractive to have these wheel pants versus not. So that is the one detail that is different, but everything else is exactly like this model. So part of the coolness about Model Yard is we're also going to tell you some cool things about this airplane. First flight was in 1955. Did you know it holds the endurance flight record? So a pilot actually was inside this thing for the flight endurance record. I couldn't even do that in a Boeing 777, let alone a Cessna 172. So that pilot, he needs some kudos for that. Also, it's the most produced aircraft so far. This plane that we're going to be talking about here at the end, it's catching up. Actually, the Cessna 172 started off as a Cessna 170 with a tricycle landing gear. So it's just kind of like a modded version of that turned into one of America's most beloved airplanes of all time. So here's the model. Here's the wheel pants that I was talking about. And off to the other side, you can see there all these models include a display stand, so you can set your flight configuration. This one is stationed right here on the flight line at Sporty's Claremont County Airport. And here's some of the features that it has. The printed graphics, these graphics won't fade, they won't peel off. The landing gear, the wheels move on it. This cockpit is see-through, the propeller rotates. And it measures about 4 inches long with about a wingspan of 6 inches. And all these models are licensed, in case you're wondering. We are running a competition right now. If you own a Cessna 172, submit me your images. There's a chance your airplane could be our 2024 limited edition Cessna 172. All right, so now let's talk about the Cub. Like I said, had to do some convincing, some begging, some pleading, and finally we're like, okay, we're going to do a Cub. Luckily, here at Sporty's, we do have a Sandy's Air Park. One of the homeowners here actually has a Cub, so he was a perfect person to use. The Cub is one of the most influential airplanes of all time. The iconic Cub is one of the General Aviation's best loved classic aircraft. Initially manufactured between 1938 and 1947, over 20,000 of these were built, and many are still flying today. Now, before we go to the next fact, I wanted to tell you one thing about this. We found all Cub yellows are different. Okay, some are properly the right Pantone colors, but Piper actually does not release this Pantone color. So you will see in the industry, they are different types of yellows. Get this, when it first came out, you could buy a Cub for $1,300. That's almost like a weekly grocery bill nowadays. But back then, you could buy a Piper Cub for $1,300. They did have a military version of this aircraft, which was the L4 that served time in World War II and also Korea. When you think of the Cub, I doubt you think of this being a warbird or any kind of fighter jet, but it was used. Also, the Cub is pretty popular in Alaska. Alaskan pilots like to put these on some big tires or some floats, call them Super Cubs. And up there, they like to take off and land in very short spaces. And with the Cub being a little bit slower and takeoff capability of being that, Alaska pilots love it. It's a good use up there. And like I said before, this one is stationed here at Sporty's Air Park, which is an airport community located right next to our runway. So that's how the model came out. So far, the aviation community has absolutely loved this plane. The one thing we keep getting complimented on is the engine detail. The engine detail on this model is phenomenal. And this is a first in a 1/72nd scale for a Cessna. I'm sorry, a Piper Cub. So we definitely are going to continue this tradition, and I'm excited for next year's as we're already working on it. But as you got to get them now. These are limited edition. Once they're gone, this is gone, and we won't be able to get it back. Next year's will be a different Cub. Just like the Cessna, it features detailed printed graphics, realistic landing gear, a see-through cockpit, a rotating propeller, display stand, and also measures about 4 inches long with a wingspan of 6 inches. All right. It's coming soon. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of facts on this next plane. Go ahead, submit in some answers of what you think it is. I want to see if you guys think you can figure this out. So the Cub would be the Model A. Let's talk about cars for a second. The Cub would be the Model A. I would say the Cessna could be the Bel Air of the 50s. A little bit faster, a little bit more seating room, cool kid on the block. Our new plane, I would say Tesla, but it's not all electric, so I don't want to misguide you. It'd be like a new age sedan with all the bells and whistles, with a panoramic sunroof, with improved horsepower. Get this, it's the most produced aircraft in the past decade. Remember me telling you, it's catching up on the Cessna. All right, so if you wanted to go buy you one of these actual airplanes, it's probably going to take you 52 weeks because that's that popular. Our die-cast model, though, will probably be here in about 2 to 3 weeks. So your safe bet is to actually buy the model if you're thinking about buying the real airplane. Just throwing that out there. Officially certified in 2000. It had classic cockpits before going all glass in 2003. It also grew out of a home-built kit plane launched by the Klattmeyer brothers in Minnesota. Oh, yeah. It features one of these. All right, let's see what we got here. You guys got an idea what it is? If that last picture did not give it away, I don't know if I'm talking to aviation enthusiasts or not. Announcing to you guys the first ever in die-cast. That's right, the Cirrus SR-22. This will be our latest die-cast model. Just like the other planes, this is stationed here at Sporty's, and it is beautiful. I actually got this the prototype in yesterday, and it's gorgeous. Just the detail along the sides, it's a nice model. You will be able to pre-order yours today at Wright-Bros.com. You are the first to see this. Now with this one, we had some obstacles in this one. So here's the model. Here's the model itself. There it is on its display stand. So finding a mold was very interesting to say the least. This model was supposed to come out before the Cub. We actually struggled, Gemini Jets and myself, we struggled for a while to find a nice replica of what we could send to get the mold created. A lot of you guys know these mahogany models exist. They're not good for that. They're bulky, they're large, they're not detailed, they're outdated. So we finally found a RC airplane that actually kind of fit the mold quite well. We bought it, and that's what we used. We also struggled a little bit with licensing, getting into Cirrus. They kind of have other things on their mind. You know, with the 52-week wait period for airplanes, they weren't really, ready for us to do a model. And then also the graphics down the side was challenging. Unlike the other planes that we've done, I mean, these graphics are pretty intense with the lines and the colors. It took us several times to get the Pantones correct. It's hard to relay that. While I'm up here in Claremont County Airport, Batavia, Ohio, I'm submitting it to people all over the country and all over the world to try to get these graphics properly down. But of course, our team at Gemini Jets, they're professionals and they nailed it. So we got that out of the way. We got our Cirrus. It's live. It's you can go ahead and pre-order yours today. We're not done. Okay. We want to continue this. We want to be your general aviation source for die-cast models. We're already talking about what's next. If you guys have some ideas, throw those in the chat and we'll be glad to listen. So first, I want to say thank you guys for joining us today. We covered quite a bit in our first webinar. We told you guys about Sporty's Wright Bros. You can visit us at Wright-Bros.com. We talked about the model yard. If you guys don't know anything about the model yard, please go to our website, look for the email signups, go to our aircraft model page. We're actually getting ready to launch a whole new landing page for this. Come see us at Oshkosh this year. We will have a model yard section part of our booth. We're in Hangar B. I'm excited for everyone to kind of be a part of this, and I think you guys are going to like it too. So we got our Cessna. That's our latest, Cessna 172. There's model number 2, Hyper Cub. And then there she is, the Cirrus SR22. These are the 3 die-cast models in general aviation that you can get at sporties.com, at Wright-bros.com. And also want to thank Gemini Jets for what they've done with us on this product line. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope to see you guys soon for our next webinar. And I want to thank you again from me, Branden Thompson. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you guys enjoyed it.